Peace. Peace. You hear me?
I
You hear me?
can hear you.
Peace.
Peace.
Looks like you're the first person to make it.
Okay, I'm here with Akeem. Okay.
How's your day going?
Oh.
Peace.
Ross Davis L.
Hello? Hello?
Ross.
Peace on love.
Okay, why am I not hearing stuff?
Wait a few more minutes.
Okay. Is anybody else joined in?
Brother Kadeem got on.
Yeah, I'm here. Y'all can hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I'm here.
Akeem's here as well. Akeem out.
Islam.
Islam. I seen a video over here. Yeah, start video.
Yeah, but they're not doing video. This is just audio, right?
Say it again.
Is this just audio?
I'm gonna share my screen here.
Okay.
I was just trying to let some more people
Okay.
get in before I pull it up. Peace. He's
What's the topic of this?
this is on the trust.
Okay. That's what
I see. I see. In the building.
I-
Say it again. He was trying. Peace.
Some fellas myself, man.
All right. And start. Or just let whoever comes late catch us. Right.
Okay.
Wonder how I know if somebody else comes in. Guess I'll get notified. All right. This is an abstract I put together on trust. I have a trust. Well, I operate a trust. Trustee of Davis L. Cox Altium Trust. That's that's Latin. Cox Altium. That's Latin for peace and pinnacle of excellence. And what's supposed to have meaning that peace is the pinnacle of excellence. I've been operating this trust since February. I drafted a couple other trusts as well before I got here. They're all pretty much the same. Um, yeah, here's an abstract on what a trust is, how to establish one, and brief history. Trust has been around for a long time. Back to Plato, from a European standpoint, it's more so from their standpoint for their history. First peer trust in America was drafted in Virginia colony by Governor Robert Morris for the North American Land Company, 1705 years Constitution. But we know the Constitution is based off our contract of great peace. Islamic perspective, trust is known as a PAF. They developed around the time of Muhammad was actually walked the plane. That's where most of the jurisprudence of it comes. This the tradition was kept along by second Caliph Umar, where he used a usufruct for the palm orchards. And his companions they added on to this concept by making sure that their family received benefits from the waqaf before charity was this is more so how I trust is set up. Um, application, uplift all of humanity. Where I was looking at that from. But, what is a trust? It's a form of business organization, corporation. But simple definition is a trust is property, corpus, or interest held by one person. Trustee, Mutawali is what's called Islamic perspective. At the request of another, the grantor, or is for the benefit of a third party beneficiary. And okay. For some reason my laptop. Why user trust, right? That's one of the big questions. It's a private contract for the holding of a divisible property interest by a trustee empowered by the grantor for a beneficiary of his choosing, do whatever he may do for himself as an individual jurist. That's like a kind of more technical. But it's somebody holding something for someone else at the request of another person. So let's say you have a home and you put it in a trust, you create a trust, or you don't even create a trust. Say, as from a hood way, as a lot of people may be used to, um, instead of like the person, like, you know, that's making money a certain type of way, putting a car in their name. They may have a significant other put the car in their name and use that car for their benefit. In that case, the third party beneficiary will be that grantor. Um, but the more the law basically behind this is it's a natural right. Whatever one may lawfully do for himself, he may authorize another to do for him. Parties owe no duty to any government or other outside party. So this is a way to keep outsiders out of your business. Um, it's lawful by the lawful but regards with the Constitution because you already have the authority to do something for yourself. And all you're doing is signing the contract to tell somebody else to do it for you. Trust gives you asset protection. It also is a business organization. You get protection from liability, avoid probate, and relief from high personal income. Did anybody have like a question this time? I heard something.
No. You have a question?
Oh,
All right. Revocability. This is an aspect of a trust right here. Um, Revocable trust is one that the grantor can cancel the contract with the trustee and assume title of all the trust assets. You do not want a revocable trust because there's no it pretty much defeats the purpose of creating a trust. At any time I out say like no, that's not a good example, but an outside party can basically say that the assets you put in the trust can revert back to you. Then creditors can seize those assets. But you don't want to
okay.
make your trust revocable. You want to make it irrevocable. It means it can't. The assets cannot revert back to the grantor in the capacity that he held them. So if you create a trust, a irrevocable trust, you put your house in there, your home in there, you can never get that home back the same as when you put it in there
Mm.
because it's an irrevocable trust. All right, there's a over 80 legally recognized different types of trusts. We really going to be focusing on is what's called an express trust. An express trust means that it's written down on an indenture, which sets the scope and the authority of the trust. Definition of express trust defined by Alfred E. Chancellor, Esquire, in a report to the tax commissioners of Massachusetts on unincorporated associations. Express trusts put the legal estate entirely in one or more persons, while others have a beneficial interest in and out of same, but are neither partners nor agents. This simple, adequate common law right any person or group of persons, jurists, may exercise. The trustees issuing certificates of beneficial and capital interest divided into shares, as well as issuing bonds and other obligations as freely as they open a bank account, have a passbook, draw and circulate checks, or make whatever contractual relations are allowed to persons as a natural right. This is just further to back up what it was saying. Uh, I'm not sure what this 8.2 and 8.3 is that's going on in the chat. I don't know. I'll let y'all discuss that. Maybe somebody can do a presentation on 8.
Yeah, the A3s are just the state EIN numbers.
You said a state EI. Oh,
Yeah.
different elements that make up a trust. You have your grantor, who's the person that places the assets into the trust initially. You have the trustee, the person who's responsible for managing those assets. This person can be bonded, but it's not necessary. Beneficiaries are the persons who receive benefit from the trust. Corpus is the assets that are placed in the trust. The indenture is the agreement, the actual contract. Certificates, beneficial and um, uh, certificates just prove that you get either a benefit or you're owed some liability by the trust. Capital, capital. Basics for a trustee. Anybody is capable of being a trustee. Um, no limit to the number of trustees that you can have. When it's multiple trustees, they're called co-trustees. Separately, jointly, they make the board of trustees. When you do assign ask someone to be a trustee, you should make sure that they're competent that they are competent enough to actually handle the duties. Um, the acceptance can be done formally. I actually wrote a letter and a response letter acceptance of the position of trustee, and I also kind of laid out some of the powers, duties, so forth that's already mentioned in the indenture. Just did that again in a letter, but you don't necessarily have to do that. By accepting and acting that way, you say that you accept the position of trustee. It's implied that you accept. There are different types of powers and duties. There are general powers, which are those powers just because you're the trustee, just for holding a position. Special powers, these are special powers that may be given specifically by the indenture. And then there are discretionary powers, which arise from having to make a judgment call. Um, there's really like no way that anybody should be able to infringe on you operating as a trustee in the operation of fulfillment of your duties. You have a greater range to carry out those duties and express trust to empowerment to the control of the trust according to the indenture and equity and retain the power to remove beneficiaries from the premise. Privileges and liabilities are those that are actually said in the indenture. As a trustee, you can be compensated compensated and reimbursed from out of pocket expenses. My trustees are not paid. They get benefit mostly because I'm the trustee and I also get the benefit of the trust as I'm a beneficiary of the trust as well. Um, Less paperwork as well. That um, yeah, residing within the trust as a trustee, you get to reside in the trust estate and allowances for tax rates. You can employ, solicit for assistance and guidance in the administration of the trust. Apply to a court of equity for directions, clarification, and execution of the trust. You can carry on separate business for the benefit of the trust. So if you wanted to, you can create a trust and you can create an LLC that the trust owns and operates and does commerce if you want to do that. Privileges and liabilities continued. Liability on the trustee has liability on all contracts made, signing as trustee or individually. Uh, Liability of removal for breach of trust, waste, mismanagement, or good cause shown in an action for removal in court of equity or via indenture, or basically whatever the indenture says. The way, what the appropriate way is to get rid of a trustee. It has liability for losses sustained by the trust as a result of negligence, liability for torts, common law, criminal, civil wrongs, acts of bad faith. Liability in all cases of that should be co-mingling. Oh, I'm gonna stop. And that's a professional. Please bear with me. I know. Yeah. You can't commingle your funds. Liability for all mischief of agents contracted to exercise discretionary powers. So if you contract with somebody, say you needed somebody to take and drop something off. You contract with somebody and they go and deliver a package and say they like hit somebody on the way, like you're liable for that because they were doing that in the execution of and filling their contract to you or to the trust. The trustee is not liable for losses sustained in the proper discharge of duties. So, how on the last time you have the liability for breach of trust, mismanagement, like if you're doing like shady stuff, trying to get over, like you are liable for that. The trust shouldn't be liable because you were trying to get over, you know. But if you're actually performing your duties and the loss then occurs, it's not you're not liable for that because you were acting in good faith. As a trustee, you have you pretty much have a fiduciary relationship. So you're supposed to be doing whatever in the best interest of beneficiary. As long as you can prove that and you're standing on that, you're doing well. Um, okay, the trustee can contract with liability property limited, so you can further limit your liability in all contracts. Um, Debts of the trust incurred, requiring the creditor to look solely to the trust for payment. So no one can look to the trustee saying that, hey, you're personally liable for this contract that you signed as trustee. Trustee is independent and non-preventable acts of co-trustee. Um, so if a co-trustee does something off the wall and they have a breach of contract without any prior knowledge of the other trustees are not liable. Acts of agents when properly contracted. So if you contract appropriately with the agent and he had a car accident on the way to deliver your package, say you had insurance already, you're not liable. The trust isn't liable, right? Maybe I said that, but the trustee isn't liable because you already contracted appropriately to take to incur that curb. Trustee isn't taxed on income of the trust or lawsuits. Okay. Authorized representatives is the same as an agent. Trustee may contract such agents to handle all affairs which require no discretion. So an agent can't can't have a position or a duty that really requires thought of the trustee. So if the assignment is to go dig a hole, you can contract that. But if the assignment is like where let me see, good way. Yeah, but if the assignment is to like hold the property in their name, I mean, if you can contract that and say that they can do that, but let's see, what's the discretionary thing there? But they had to think and make it have like a decision making process that's that's to the core of the trust. They can't do that. They can't contract that. Yeah, you can't delegate the essential part of a power unless in the indenture at own peril. And then also you can unless you contracted appropriate. And that again can be you can contract formally or informally. A comparison, a trust is governed under equity. The trustee or the sole authority unless delegated. Trustees have more leverage than corporate officers. Trustees' liability limited by trust indenture and by signature on all contracts and instruments. Corporation is governed under statute, meaning that if the laws change, so does the corporation change, the outside third party. It has a board of directors, and their managers, limited powers, and they hold regular meetings. Have relatively broad powers, but cannot do whatever an individual may lawfully, only what's legal, because it's governed by statute. Officers are personally liable to legislature and creditors. As a trust, I'm just going to start kind of highlighting stuff. As a trust, you don't have to obtain a business license. Business name is protected by injunction. You don't have to register it. As a corporation, you have to register. It's depending on what type of corporation you are, you have to refile. You have to file quarterly, annual reports. You, like I said, you must apply for a fictitious name. The trust is not subject to foreign corporation laws of any state, not inherently subject to commercial regulation, except for income derived from corporate stock and physical franchises under Article 1, subsection 8, Clause 1 and 3 Constitution. Express trust, valid legal entity in all states of the Union. Corporation is inherently subject to all foreign corporation laws and public policy regulations. Trust, you get to function as a Article 4, subsection 2 citizen, United States, be as trustee. Citizen is understood in constitutional law as a private citizen. Trustees have absolute rights and privileges to engage in commerce under protection of the federal constitution. Corporation is a 14th Amendment citizen. Citizen is inherently public due to the nature of the amendment. Corporate officers have relative right and privileges to do so and incur more taxability by doing so. Trustee can issue certificates, as touched on before. As a corporation, they have to go public and offer shares of stock. Then the stockholders become part owners, as opposed to with a trust, the interest of the beneficiary is protected by equity. They don't become an owner. Stockholders are they usually are the last to have their rights secured, like in liquidations. They're the last to be paid if the corporation goes under. Like I was saying, shares of the corporation are personal property in the hands of the stockholders. Units of interest in the trust are not personal property, or of the excuse me, are not personal property of certificate holder. Carry any liability. A trust may prosecute, defend, in litigation in trust or trustee's name without compromising legality. Same rules as the parties and procedure at law and equity are applicable. No lawful method to enter the trust without expressed or implied consent of the trustee. That's saying that again that no third outside party can infringe on the trust. I highlight for this an example of um, is with the Federal Reserve System back in like 2008. I don't know if you're paying attention around that time. They had Ben Bernanke, then the head of the Federal Reserve. That the Congress was asking him questions and asking him to produce their books. Who were the beneficiaries? They wanted to know information. His response was, "I don't have to tell you that. And there's nothing that they can do." A corporation may bring and defend litigation in the corporate name and entity only. The process of piercing corporate veils succeeds mostly through fusion of personal and official capacity by office. Um, I didn't I didn't pay for this, guys. I didn't do the upgraded version. So if we get cut off, we're gonna get cut off here on 7 minutes. Um, just call back in and we keep going. And I give like 5 minutes or so for everybody to get back on. Okay, trust in commerce. Trust can engage in all manners of trade and commerce under the common law with no direct contact with the federal government, and has the right to contract. The Constitution, you got that unlimited right. But you can, as a trustee, you can contract with the 14th Amendment jurisdiction, the federal government. Make sure you sign and do everything appropriate to get those benefits. And then the government, a third party, will be that third party intervener commercial act. As a result, I just want to highlight this. As a result, from House Joint Resolutions 192, it's better known as an association. Common enterprise is to offer all Americans the privilege in the form of a quasi-contract to participate in commerce without payment of debts, Social Security purposes. It's outside of the Constitution, Article 1, Section 2. This is how everything is pretty much operating right now, and why we should use a trust to separate ourselves from that 14th Amendment. Like I said, Congress cannot compel the trust or trustee to participate federal, interstate, unincorporated banking association. Corporations are artificial creations of the state or federal government, physical charter, franchise issued via state, federal, civil law, or commercial under Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1 and 3, Constitution, and legal action realm, as it is a thing or property. That's what we don't want to be, thing or property.
Right.
The general presumption is, by implication in the civil law, that a character exists because persons are availing themselves to the privileges pertaining to House Joint Resolution 192. Persons then come under a quasi in rem jurisdiction of civil law in order to regulate and control those that are outside of the common law principle. Forms the basis for internet, federal state compulsion of persons to its private international law, Roman civil law, commonly known as code statutes, to regulate everything as a matter of commerce. We're not commerce, we just operate in commerce. This is how we're trying to effectuate that. The operation of law, all persons subject to its jurisdictions are regarded as fictional vessels, but are more like objects of the state. Corporations present the highest model of organized capital, whereas of the three standards of administrations offered by corporations, partnership, express trust, that of a corporation is the lowest, while that of an express trust is higher as far as actually managing assets. Okay, in a way, an express trust is a partnership, whereas the law of partnerships is the branch of the law of principal and agent. Trustees have absolute principles, but accounting to the beneficiaries who have no power as principal or agent in administration. Debts incurred under the trust are personal debts of the trustee who are absolute owners and principals as a cestacate trust under terms of the indenture. That, trust cannot be held to the beneficiaries to be a partnership with partnership powers and liabilities without creating confusion and a perversion of established principles. Partners are both principals and agents manifested by the intentions of the parties under contract. And I want to highlight this. We're about to cut off prohibitive, repressive, or regulative legislation as to common law modes of administration can be partial or unequal, whereas inequality in that respect creates a constitutional conflict. So that's what they can't regulate the trust because it's based in common law. I'm gonna go ahead and hold off. We're gonna get cut off here pretty soon. I started. Just call back on here. Give me like 1 minute to make sure I can get it up.